I'd say this is my own personal thought process because I was talking about because can't I talk a lot about cancel culture as well because that's part of the emphasis of why I focus on having compromise and productive conversations. But me and a family member of mine, we were talking about cancel culture, and we were watching a music video that was kind of based off the Salem Witch Trials and how the lack of evidence and all the false accusations and how it destroyed the livelihoods of individuals then. So I was just kind of wanting to see like your personal take on that with like drawing some parallels with how, for example, with mob mentality, how during the Salem witch trials, that's what dictated the
Yeah.
false accusations. And then with social media, you have mob mentality where it dictates you did one thing wrong from the past or posted one thing wrong that makes
And
it
in
up to the
actual
public.
mobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I agree, and I'm not in favor of witchcraft or witch trials, either one.
Yeah.
The But one thing is to notice what is going on that is stressing people who are ordinarily fairly reasonable to do things like this, to believe in the stories, to decide to cancel the witches
Yeah.
um, by drowning or burning them, or to believe that it was a legitimate test that you dunk them underwater and if they survive,
Yeah.
the and there were things going on in the larger community. So we can try to explain the Salem witch trials or other things, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean we want to have that be our practice for how we get things done. And
Yeah.
I think it's important to do the explanation. So it's important, I mentioned Joe McCarthy and the movement of the 1950s,
Mhm.
trying to define what was Americanism and stop all those who were, quote, un-American
Right.
from holding jobs or especially holding any national security relevant jobs. Um, the, the Salem witchcraft, that example, and 100 others we could give,
Mhm.
point out that the idea of trying to cancel out the people you disagree with,
Mhm.
or the people who do something that upsets you, or you heard a rumor that they do something that upsets you, that's old. That exists through history.
Yeah.
And you're exactly right to bring up something like Salem. Say it didn't come just from social media.
Yeah, and I
How
think
does
Salem
social
is a good
media
example
relate to
because it's
this?
even
It
less.
enables rumors to circulate faster and farther. The impact of social media is not on whether there are rumors, and it's not on whether people have the truth or are idiots or anything else, except the velocity of the rumors, right? How
Yeah,
far do they go? How fast do they go? And therefore, how readily can they be checked?
yeah, because that was a key trait when because I made some little notes in comparison between like the Salem witch trials and how society acted and versus now with cancel culture because like the mob mentality, there's also the pressures to conform to the societal norms and what they're doing, and often results in like the alienation and destruction of certain individuals
Yeah.
based off that. But this thing that I emphasized that was more so a feature of cancel culture in this time, since I know that this whole thing has been around for a long time, was the issue of society blowing up and exaggerating individuals' past mistakes or wrongdoings by assuming that those past or present actions, moral flaws, whatever else makes up their whole identity. They then deem these individuals as incapable of changing their ways and uses social media as a means to destroy their livelihood. They'll also alienate those individuals by ignoring their good deeds and any active effort on their end to improve and better themselves as human beings. And I think that more so pertains with social media because of the scale of reach that can happen. Because you could have one false one false thing about you spread, but if it reaches a million people and you only got one voice,
Sure.
there's the difficulty of feeding through to get the truth. And then people are just so quick to jump on it and they use
Right.
social media as a way to enforce that, I'd say.
Right. I think that's true. And I think where the accusations are false, almost everybody would agree on this, although the damage might often get done.
Mhm.
Where the accusations are true, I mean, and part of what you were reading out there was about the possibility that people did one bad thing
Mhm.
or one part of them was bad. Well, their, behavior in sexual relationships was all bad, but that, should that mean that their art is all bad?
Yeah.
And I don't think that's distinctive to cancel culture, but there is a question about um, that the text you were reading out, whether it's you writing it or whoever it was.
Yeah, that was me just putting in my notes.
But that got at one issue is whether it's true. Another issue is whether people are given the opportunity to redeem themselves, change their ways, move on.
Yeah.
A third issue is whether certain sorts of things are so serious that they really should remove people from their jobs or from public roles. So, do you think that child sex abuse is so serious that you should, possibility A, not be allowed to be a kindergarten teacher, B, be sent to prison, C, be executed, right? Well, by and large in our society, we're going to settle on A and B, right? You can't get a job with children, and if it's serious, you'll probably go to prison.
Yeah.
But then when you get into other things, the Me Too movement or this or that, that's where the debate comes in. And so when the accusations are false and it's just a rumor, that's one thing, and too much damage gets done. But when the accusations are true, what is the right solution to this? And lots of, I think, the debate and lots of the discomfort in many areas, not just sexuality that I was using an example, that in politics, in a variety of other areas, comes from concern that if you will, the cancellation is too extreme, it's too categorical. And so we shouldn't confuse the question of truth, because sometimes people really are guilty.
Yeah.
Right? With the question of what's the appropriate punishment to fit the crime. And we need to have good mechanisms for figuring that out. And with social media and a lot of mass media too, we lose the ability to be very nuanced.
Yeah.
Say, hey, that's bad, but it's not as bad as this other thing. And so it tends to be all or nothing a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's definitely what we see now, because with all the political rifts, the social rifts and everything, with the inability to have conversation, that kind of stems from that as well. And then an example that I wanted to bring were like when we're talking about the false accusations and how it comes like that, just because it popped in my head, like with Kevin Hart, for example, with the Oscars, where it was indeed something that was just kind of way taken out of context and didn't acknowledge the actual change and positive change in Kevin Hart, was when he was let go from the Oscars for that tweet that he made in regards to homosexuality like 7-9 years ago. And that's where that kind of plays in. And I think we certainly need to find a balance for it.
Right. So I only vaguely remember that particular case. So I don't have any opinion about that. I do think that homophobia is bad and you shouldn't go around attacking homosexuals. I have no idea, what the level of seriousness of his action was. What I would say though is that the social media is almost sort of a machine for taking things out of context.
Yeah.
If you wanted to design a media system in order to take things out of context, you would design something like social media, which is precisely the enemy of context, right? You're not putting in all the nuances. You're not giving all the background details.
Especially with Twitter too, for example.
Characters, or maybe in the new Twitter, 240. You're pulling out something, and you're going to get a lot more errors. Whatever we decide are the errors, maybe we don't even agree at what the errors are, but you're going to get a lot more of them. These decontextualization errors.